All right, let's keep the good feelings going. Check out some magic moments covered by State Farm. Harry, you're going to take us through a couple of the upsets we saw this week.
Sure am. And let's start with Northwestern beating number 10 Illinois in overtime, 96-91. It was a huge win for the Wildcats, knocking off a top 10 team for the second time this season. Boo Booey, shout out the name science, put up 29 points, while Brooks Barnheiser added another 23. The Wildcats are now 14-5 overall, 5-3 in Big Ten play. Should Illinois be panicking or having patience right now?
First shout out to Northwestern. They've beaten now Illinois and Purdue earlier this year. But if I'm an Illinois fan, I'm panicking for a variety of different reasons. One of which being their leading scorer, Terrence Shannon Jr., entangled in some legal issues right now. And those are going to follow him on the road, as evidenced by what we just saw at Welsh Ryan Arena against Northwestern. But apart from that, on the court, this is a very good offensive team, Illinois is. On the defensive side, not so much. That's a concerning part. They also are last in the conference. They're only forcing about 10 turnovers per game. I just think things could go downhill quickly here with Illinois, just considering the amount that's hanging over this program. And I just, it's not a good vibe right now.
It's not a good vibe. And honestly, even in a year where the Big Ten might not be as powerful as it usually is, there's no such thing as an easy game.
No, there's not.
Right.
There isn't.
So let's move on to another one.
Yep.
Right. Alabama upsetting number 8 Auburn, 79-75. This was the Tide's first win over a ranked team in 5 tries this season. Mark Sears had 22 points and 8 assists, which is a career high for him. He made 2 free throws with 9 seconds left in the play to seal the deal. The Tide are now 13-6 overall, 5-1 in SEC play. Sam, are we having panic? Or are we having patience for Auburn right now?
I'm going to have some patience with Auburn here. What's fascinating about Auburn is they've built up this resume. They're 16-3. They're 5-1 in SEC play, yet they have not had a quad 1 win. Now, when we say quad 1, you'll hear us talk about computer numbers a lot. Just to explain, I mean, basically what these computers do is they input all of this data. You're talking about road wins, home wins, offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, net, and it spits out a ranking. And Auburn and Alabama are both beloved computer-ranked teams. They're both top 10 at KenPom. And Auburn played incredibly well in a really difficult road environment. Now, that won't hurt them a ton in the computer rankings because of how well they played. Bruce Pearl's group is 6-1 in Quad 2, but 0-2 in Quad 1, like I said. So essentially, they just haven't really played a ton of quality, tough opponents yet this year. Yet, being the operative word, 4 of their next 5 opponents are against Quad 1 teams, which are generally the best of the best kind of teams in the country. So we'll learn a lot more about Bruce Pearl's group and how Auburn plays some more difficult competition.
Without a doubt, and what we've seen from them so far, it does seem like they are one of the more balanced teams in the country. So
experienced,
right, experienced as well. So we'll sort of see how that goes for them once they do get into that more difficult play. Our next one, South Carolina running away with a win over number 6 Kentucky by a score of 79-62. This was South Carolina's highest-ranked opponent win since defeating the number 1 Wildcats back at home in 2010 by a score of 68-62. Talon Cooper tied his career best with 20 points, and the Gamecocks moved to 16-3 overall and 4-2 in SEC play. So, Sam, panic or patience for the Kentucky Wildcats, who we talked to not too recently, right, about being one of the best-looking teams in the country. Panic or patience?
Yes, and even after that loss to South Carolina, and shout out to head coach Lamont Paris for getting that thing back on track in Columbia. I'm going to urge some patience here from the Wildcats fans for a number of different reasons. But one being, this is a different kind of John Calipari team.
Yes.
This is not a just 5 freshmen out there, let's see what you can do, and you're gone next year. He has some returners this year, some really talented players. It's a good mix of veteran and freshman kind of relationship on this squad. I think for Kentucky, if you don't think this team can win 6 straight games in March, then I don't think you've watched them have, the stretches that they've had in games. This is maybe one of the highest ceiling kind of teams in the country because they push the ball, they move in transition.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to show the potential sporadically. It's another thing to be able to show it game in and game out. And I just don't think we've seen that from Kentucky. This is a great test for them on the road. Going to be crazy in Bud Walton Arena tonight in Fayetteville. So let's see if they can get it done. Let's see how they bounce back.
100%. And something with this Kentucky team that I'm sort of looking at here is they are constructed, to your point, in a way that the years when John Calipari has had his most success at Kentucky, it has looked something like this.
No doubt.
So,
yes.
Tonight's going to be a good test for them. And in an arena we saw it earlier with Christine out there in Fayetteville. That's going to be a good atmosphere.
Well, since you brought it up, we talked about it last week, Aaron. I'm going to jump one on you. Best team in the country. We kind of talked about the UConn, the Purdue, Kentucky maybe in the mix. Has that changed from last week to this week, or is it still kind of a meh? I don't know.
No, it still feels like it's very much up in the air. It still feels like it's very much up in the air, and I think as we continue to get deeper into this conference play, we're going to kind of see that sort of settle itself out. But if I had to bet on somebody right now, to me, it's North Carolina.
Yeah, and you talked about it earlier in the show. I agree with you. And again, it felt like 2 years ago we underestimated them and then make it to the finals. And then we say, all right, they're preseason number one. And then they disappoint. And now it feels like they're underestimated once again. We'll see what they do the rest of the season. That was today's Magic Moments covered by State Farm.